Several years ago, during my early days working at a local grocery store, I experienced something profoundly unsettling, a memory that lingers like a shadow in my mind. It all started on a routine early morning shift, requiring me to be at the store by the first light of dawn. This small detail, seemingly inconsequential, was the prelude to an encounter that would forever change my perception of the ordinary world. It was a cold, late November morning. I remember clearly the sensation of leaving the warmth of my home, stepping into the biting chill of pre-dawn. The darkness was all-encompassing, a thick blanket that seemed to muffle the world. As I mounted my bike, the crisp air stung my cheeks, a stark reminder of the day's reluctant beginning. The streets were deserted, shrouded in an almost eerie calm. My ride was usually a time for introspection, but that morning, the silence felt heavier, more oppressive. My thoughts, typically filled with mundane plans and trivial worries, were subdued, lost in the overwhelming stillness. As I pedaled through the quiet streets, a sense of unease began to unfurl within me. It was a feeling I couldn't quite place, an inexplicable apprehension that grew with every turn of my bike's wheels. The tranquility of the morning was abruptly shattered when I took a turn onto an unfamiliar, dimly lit street. That's when I heard it, a chilling, gut-wrenching scream. This wasn't an ordinary scream. It was a sound that seemed to exist on the edge of reality, simultaneously human and something else entirely. I had always been familiar with the nocturnal cries of animals, particularly cats, but this was different. It wasn't a simple cry of distress. It was a terrifying blend of human agony and something unidentifiably alien, a sound that seemed to claw at the very edges of my sanity. My initial curiosity quickly morphed into raw fear. My legs moved almost mechanically, pedaling faster, as if trying to outrun the sound that had shattered the night's calm. The rest of my journey was a blur, the usual sounds of the night now tainted with an underlying sense of dread. The real moment of terror, however, was yet to come. To reach the store, I had to pass under an old, towering bridge. I had crossed under this bridge countless times, a mundane part of my daily route. But that morning, as I emerged from its imposing shadow, that horrific scream tore through the silence once more. This time it was alarmingly close, so close it felt as though the source was just behind me. A wave of icy terror washed over me. My heart raced wildly, thumping against my ribs as if desperate to escape. I dared a quick glance over my shoulder, and in that fleeting moment, my eyes glimpsed something nightmarish. A shadowy figure, twisted and contorted, its form vaguely human but distorted in a way that defied logic, as if it were a being caught between two worlds. I pedaled as if my life depended on it, the scream echoing in my ears 3 more times, each a fading reminder of the horror lurking in the darkness. Since that harrowing morning, the screams have never returned. But the memory of that encounter remains vividly etched in my mind, a haunting specter of fear. Every time I recall that day or take that same path to work, a shiver of dread runs down my spine. My route remains largely unchanged, except for a few minor alterations, a small concession to the lingering fear that whispers to me from the shadows of that cold November morning. A few years ago, during my time as an intern at a downtown law firm, I encountered something that still haunts my thoughts. It's a detail that seems mundane, but my early morning start at the firm plays a crucial role in this eerie tale. I was scheduled to begin work at 5:30 a.m., which in the depths of winter meant starting my day in the dark, cold embrace of the pre-dawn hours. On this particular morning, the city was blanketed in a dense fog, the kind that turns familiar streets into ghostly labyrinths. I left my apartment on foot, the quiet streets of the city more deserted than usual, shrouded in a mist that muffled every sound. The journey to the firm was one I had made many times, but that day it felt different. The dense fog seemed to isolate me in a world of my own, with the tall buildings looming like silent sentinels above. It was when I was passing through an old, narrow alley, a shortcut to the main avenue, that I first heard it, a scream. This wasn't the sound of revelry from late-night partygoers, nor a shout of anger or distress. It was an otherworldly scream, a chilling mix of human terror and something inexplicably foreign. The sound cut through the fog with alarming clarity, sending a wave of fear through my body. I quickened my pace, eager to escape the confines of the alley and the eerie sound that seemed to resonate off the ancient brick walls. The rest of my walk was unnervingly quiet, as if the city itself had been silenced by the fog. But as I approached the firm, near the old city square known for its historic statue, the scream pierced the air again. This time it was alarmingly close, a hair-raising wail that seemed to emanate from just behind me. Panic set in, my heart racing as I turned to look. Through the swirling fog I could barely make out a shape, a figure that seemed distorted, not fully human, more a shadow than substance. It was there one moment and gone the next, lost in the fog. I didn't stop to investigate. Fear propelled me forward, and I didn't slow down until I reached the safety of the brightly lit lobby of the law firm. The scream did not follow me there, and I never heard it again after that morning. To this day, the memory of that scream and the shadowy figure in the fog sends shivers down my spine. I often take a different route to work now, avoiding the alley and the old city square, preferring the longer, more crowded streets where the morning light dispels the shadows and the memories they bring. Every morning, like clockwork, I cycle to work. The world is usually still asleep at that hour, with just the faintest hints of dawn streaking the sky. It's a peaceful routine, or at least it was, until that unsettling morning that has since overshadowed my solitary rides. It was an ordinary Tuesday when it happened. I remember because Tuesdays always have that unremarkable feel to them. The air was crisp, a hint of mist hovering over the streets like a ghostly blanket. My bike's wheels hummed steadily against the asphalt, the only sound in the otherwise silent morning. As I approached the old bridge that marked the halfway point to my office, I noticed a figure standing at the edge. It wasn't unusual to see early risers or late partygoers on my route, but something about this person felt off. They were motionless, staring into the water below. The back of my neck prickled with unease. I slowed down as I neared, my instincts screaming that something was wrong. The figure seemed oblivious to my approach. It was then that I saw the face, or rather, the lack of it. Where features should have been, there was nothing but a smooth, blank surface. A cold shiver ran down my spine. I stopped my bike, my heart pounding in my chest. "Hey, are you okay?" I called out, my voice wavering. The figure turned towards me and the world seemed to stand still. Where eyes should have been, there were only dark, empty sockets. A mouth, if it ever existed, was now just a void. I didn't wait for a response. Pushing my bike, I sprinted past, not daring to look back. My breath came in ragged gasps, my mind reeling from what I had seen. The logical part of me argued it was a trick of the light or a mask, but deep down, I knew it was neither. I arrived at work disheveled and out of breath. My colleagues asked if I was okay, but how could I explain? I mumbled something about a close call with a dog and tried to push the morning's events to the back of my mind. That encounter has haunted me ever since. I still cycle to work, but I avoid the old bridge, taking a longer route instead. Sometimes I wonder if it was just my imagination, a figment born out of the early morning shadows. But every now and then, when the mist hangs heavy and the world is quiet, I feel a prickle at the back of my neck and pedal just a bit faster.